The afternoon sun beat down on the busy supermarket parking lot as Maya Johnson checked her watch. It was just past 3, and she still had so much to do before her brother's birthday dinner that evening. She'd been teaching 4th graders all week, staying late each day to prepare for upcoming parent-teacher conferences, and Saturday was her only chance to get everything done. Maya pulled her shopping cart alongside her blue Honda Civic, popping the trunk with her key fob. The cart was filled to the brim: groceries for the week, a small cake she'd picked up from the bakery section, and a wrapped gift for her brother. She'd spent nearly an hour inside the crowded store, navigating through weekend shoppers and waiting in a long checkout line. Now all she wanted was to get home, prepare the special dish she'd promised to bring, and maybe catch a quick nap before the celebration. As she loaded the bags into her trunk, Maya noticed how packed the parking lot had become. Cars circled slowly like sharks, drivers impatiently hunting for any open spot. A young mum with 2 small children struggled to manage both her shopping and her kids a few spaces down. Maya smiled sympathetically, remembering how her own mother had juggled similar challenges when Maya and her siblings were young. "Need some help?" Maya called over, but the woman shook her head with a grateful smile and managed to get her toddler buckled into the car seat. Maya finished loading her groceries and returned her cart to the collection area. She was always careful about that, a small courtesy that her grandfather had instilled in her. "Always leave things better than you found them," he used to say. She slid into the driver's seat of her car, adjusted the air conditioning to combat the late summer heat, and checked her mirrors before starting the engine. Through her rearview mirror, she noticed a silver SUV waiting at the end of her row, turn signal blinking. The driver, an older man wearing sunglasses, gave a friendly wave acknowledging that he was waiting for her spot. Maya nodded back and turned the key in the ignition. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister asking if she'd remembered to get the special spice their mother needed for the dinner. Maya quickly replied before shifting into reverse. The radio played softly in the background, a song Maya recognized from her college days. She hummed along, thinking about how much her brother would love the vintage record player she'd found for his birthday. She began backing out carefully, mindful of the SUV waiting for her space and a family walking to their vehicle a few cars down. Just as she was halfway out of the parking spot, movement caught her eye. A black sedan came racing around the corner of the row, cutting off the waiting SUV and positioning itself to swoop into Maya's spot. The driver honked sharply, causing Maya to brake suddenly, her heart jumping at the unexpected noise. "What in the world?" she muttered, watching as the sedan's driver, a red-faced man in his 50s with thinning hair, gestured impatiently for her to hurry up. In the passenger seat sat a woman with highlighted blonde hair tied back in a tight ponytail, her expression equally annoyed as she spoke animatedly to the driver. Maya shook her head in disbelief. The parking lot was busy, sure, but there was no need for such aggressive behavior. She continued backing out, trying to ignore the sedan now partially blocking her path. The silver SUV that had been patiently waiting had to reverse to avoid being hit by the black sedan's maneuver. Maya planned to simply drive away and let it go. After all, she had plenty to do today and no time for parking lot drama. She put her car in drive and was about to pull forward when the sedan's doors flew open. Both the man and woman stepped out, faces flushed with anger, moving purposefully toward Maya's car. This can't be happening, Maya thought, her teacher's instinct immediately recognizing the signs of escalating conflict. She took a deep breath and rolled down her window just slightly, wondering what could possibly have upset these strangers so much on what had started as an ordinary Saturday afternoon. Maya's fingers tightened around her steering wheel as the couple approached her car. The man walked with a stiff, determined gait, his face growing redder with each step. The woman followed close behind, her ponytail swinging with each sharp movement, sunglasses pushed up on her head, lips pressed into a thin line. Maya quickly checked that her doors were locked, a habit she developed living in the city. "Can I help you?" Maya called through her partially opened window, keeping her voice steady and professional, the same tone she used when dealing with upset parents at school conferences. She hoped whatever misunderstanding had occurred could be resolved quickly so she could get on with her day. The man slapped his palm against the hood of her car, making Maya jump. "You think you're pretty clever, don't you?" He sneered, leaning down to peer through her window. His breath smelled of coffee and something minty. Gum, matey. We've been driving around this lot for 15 minutes. I'm sorry, but I don't understand, Maya replied, struggling to maintain her composure. I was just leaving, and that other car was waiting for my spot. She gestured toward the silver SUV that had now backed up even further, its driver watching the scene unfold with visible concern. The woman stepped forward, pointing an accusing finger. Don't play dumb. You saw Robert trying to get this spot. You were taking forever on purpose. She wore a navy blue polo shirt with a real estate company logo, her name badge still clipped to her collar. Her wedding ring caught the sunlight as she waved her hand dismissively. Maya took a deep breath. I was just loading my groceries and texting my sister. I didn't even see you until you came around the corner just now. She tried to keep her voice calm, even as her heart pounded. This was supposed to be a simple errand, not a confrontation. Yeah, right, Robert scoffed, his face now inches from her window. People like you are always playing these games. Think you own the place. Maya felt a chill at his words. The unmistakable emphasis on people like you made her stomach tighten. She'd heard that tone before, growing up in a neighborhood where her family had often been the only black household on the block. She'd hoped those days were behind her. The woman glanced around the parking lot, seeming to notice for the first time that other shoppers had slowed their pace, watching the interaction with curious and concerned expressions. She tugged at her husband's arm, but he shrugged her off. Robert, people are watching, she muttered, but loud enough for Maya to hear. I don't care who's watching, Karen, he shot back. I'm sick of being pushed around. He turned back to Maya, his voice rising. You get out of that car right now. We need to talk about respect. Maya's teacher instinct kicked in again, the one that told her when a situation was deteriorating beyond simple resolution. She reached for her phone on the passenger seat, bringing it into view. Sir, I need to leave now. Please step away from my car. Karen noticed the phone and her eyes widened. What do you think you're doing? Are you recording us? Her voice climbed higher with each word. I'm not recording anything, Maya said truthfully. But I will if you don't back away from my vehicle. She'd never actually recorded anyone before, but the threat felt necessary as Robert's face contorted with even deeper anger. You threatening us now? He spat. Over a parking spot that we had first. The absurdity of the situation struck Maya. She was being accosted over a parking space she was actively trying to leave. She noticed more people gathering, a young man with grocery bags pausing near the cart return, an elderly couple stopping beside their car, a store employee standing at the entrance looking their way. Look, Maya said firmly, I don't want any trouble. I'm leaving and you can have the spot. There's no need for this. But Robert wasn't backing down. He slapped her hood again, harder this time. We're not done here. You think you can just? Is there a problem? A deep voice cut through Robert's tirade. A tall man in a blue windbreaker had approached from the store entrance, his shopping still in his cart, his expression concerned but calm. Karen tugged desperately at Robert's arm again. Let's just go, she hissed, but he stood his ground, apparently too invested in the confrontation to walk away now. Maya sensed the situation balancing on a knife's edge. What had started as a misunderstanding about a parking spot was rapidly becoming something more dangerous, something with underlying currents she recognized all too well. And now, with witnesses gathering and tensions escalating, she wondered how this ordinary Saturday afternoon had spiraled so quickly out of control. Robert spun around to face the man in the blue windbreaker, momentarily distracted from Maya. Mind your own business, he snapped. This is between us and her. The man in the windbreaker stood his ground, shopping cart still in hand. Looks like you're causing a scene in a public place, so it kind of is my business now. His voice remained calm but firm. Everyone's just trying to get their shopping done and go home. Maya used this moment to check her surroundings. More people had gathered. A young couple with a baby in a stroller, an older woman clutching her purse, two teenage boys with skateboards under their arms. All watching. All witnesses. She noticed a security guard near the store entrance speaking into his radio. Help was coming, but the situation was spiraling fast. You don't get it, Robert said, turning back to Maya's car. She was playing games with us, taking her sweet time. His face had turned an alarming shade of red, a vein visibly pulsing in his forehead. Karen grabbed his arm again. Robert, that's enough. Let's just. But Robert wasn't done. He leaned down toward Maya's window again. You people always think the rules don't apply to you, don't you? The words hung in the air, sharp, ugly, unmistakable in their meaning. A collective intake of breath came from the onlookers. The man in the windbreaker stepped closer. Maya felt a burning sensation rise from her stomach to her chest. She'd experienced this before, in school as a child, at college, and once when interviewing for a teaching position. That moment when someone decided to see only her skin color and nothing else about her. Not her education, not her character, not her humanity. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her phone again, this time deliberately turning on the video recording function. I'm going to have to ask you to step away from my car right now, she said, her voice stronger than she expected. And yes, I am recording now. Robert's eyes widened with fury when he saw the phone. Oh, so that's how it's gonna be. You're gonna try to make us look bad online? Play the victim. He pounded the hood of her car again, this time leaving a visible dent. Turn that thing off. Sir. The windbreaker man stepped forward. You need to back away from her car right now. Karen tugged desperately at Robert's sleeve. Stop it. People are watching. Her eyes darted nervously around the growing crowd. We're going to end up on the internet. I don't care. Robert shouted, his voice echoing across the parking lot. I'm sick of people like her thinking they own the world. He turned back to Maya, his face contorted. You think you're so special? You think. That's enough. A new voice joined the fray. A woman in a store manager's uniform had pushed through the crowd, followed by the security guard. What's going on here? This woman, Robert began, pointing accusingly at Maya, was trying to leave a parking spot when this man and woman approached her vehicle and began harassing her, interrupted the windbreaker man. Several onlookers nodded in agreement. Maya held up her phone, still recording. I have some of it on video. The manager looked from Maya to the couple, assessing the situation. Sir, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to return to your vehicle and leave the premises. Are you kidding me? Robert's voice rose even higher. We didn't do anything wrong. She was the one. I saw the whole thing, an elderly man called out from the crowd. They came at her car like bulls seeing red. All over a parking spot. Disgraceful. Karen's face had drained of color. She yanked harder on Robert's arm. We need to go. Now. Her eyes were fixed on the phones that had appeared in several bystanders' hands, all pointed in their direction. But Robert was past the point of reason. He kicked Maya's front tire hard. This isn't over, he growled. Then he turned to the crowd and the manager. You're all taking her side without even knowing what happened. The security guard stepped forward, hand on his radio. Sir, if you don't return to your vehicle immediately, we'll have to call the police. The word police seemed to penetrate Robert's rage bubble. He paused, looking around as if suddenly seeing the crowd for the first time. 20 or more people, most with expressions of disgust or concern, many recording the scene on their phones. The realization of what was happening, what he had started, finally seemed to dawn on him. But instead of backing down, he doubled down. You want something to record? He snarled, turning back to Maya. And then, like poison spilling from a broken container, a stream of racial slurs poured from his mouth. The crowd gasped. Maya's hand trembled as she continued recording, tears welling in her eyes despite her determination to stay strong. Karen finally pulled Robert back with surprising strength. Stop it, she screamed. Just stop. The parking lot had transformed from a mundane shopping area into what felt like a courtroom, with Maya's car at the center and the growing crowd as silent jurors. The security guard spoke urgently into his radio. We need police assistance at the south entrance parking lot. Situation escalating. The store manager, a woman in her 40s with short gray-streaked hair and a name tag reading Patricia, stepped between Robert and Maya's car. Sir, I've asked you to leave. This is your final warning before we call the police. They're already on their way, the security guard added, his hand now resting cautiously near his belt. Robert's face twisted with a mix of rage and something new, a flicker of uncertainty. His eyes darted from face to face in the crowd, perhaps finally registering the sea of disapproving expressions and recording phones. For a brief moment, Maya thought he might back down. Instead, he pointed a shaking finger at Maya. "You're making a big mistake," he threatened, his voice lower now, but no less menacing. "I've got friends in this town. Important friends. Robert, get in the car." Karen's voice had risen to a panicked pitch. She'd opened the passenger door of their sedan and was practically pleading. "Think about your job. Think about the firm." A young woman pushing a shopping cart paused beside Maya's window. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, bending down with genuine concern in her eyes. "My husband's over there calling 911 too, just in case." Maya nodded, grateful for the kindness. "Thank you," she managed to say, though her throat felt tight. She was still recording, her phone capturing everything despite her trembling hand. The man in the blue windbreaker had positioned himself strategically between Robert and Maya's car, creating a human barrier. "The police will sort this out," he said calmly. "But right now, you need to get back in your vehicle." Robert seemed torn between his rage and self-preservation, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. "This isn't what it looks like," he said, addressing the crowd now rather than Maya. "She started it. She was disrespectful to my wife." "That's not true," called out a teenager who had been loading groceries into a nearby van. "I saw the whole thing. They drove up crazy fast and started yelling at her for no reason." Karen had walked back to Robert and was now tugging desperately at his arm. "Please," she begged, her earlier confidence completely evaporated. "We need to go now." Maya noticed that Karen's eyes were darting nervously to something over Maya's shoulder. Turning slightly, Maya saw what had captured Karen's attention. A police cruiser had just turned into the parking lot entrance, its lights flashing but siren off. "The police are here," Maya said quietly into her phone's recording, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Robert saw the police car too. The fight seemed to drain out of him all at once, his shoulders sagging slightly. But rather than retreat, he made one last desperate attempt to flip the narrative. He turned to the store manager. "Look, this has all been blown out of proportion," he said, his voice suddenly calm and reasonable. "We just had a misunderstanding about a parking spot. I might have lost my temper a bit, but she was the one who threatened us with that phone." The crowd's reaction was immediate. "Are you kidding me? We all saw what happened. You called her those horrible names." Patricia, the store manager, stood firmly in place. "Sir, I think it's best if you wait right here for the officers to arrive. We have security camera footage of the parking lot, and I'm sure that will clear everything up." The color drained from Robert's face at the mention of security cameras. Karen looked like she might faint. As the police car pulled up nearby, Maya closed her eyes briefly, taking her first deep breath in what felt like hours. When she opened them again, she saw an officer approaching, a tall black man with a serious expression. Behind him, a second cruiser had arrived. The officer took in the scene, the dented hood of Maya's car, the crowd of witnesses with phones raised, Robert and Karen standing awkwardly by their haphazardly parked sedan, and Maya still sitting in her driver's seat, phone in hand. "I'm Officer Lewis," he said, addressing no one in particular. "Can someone tell me what's happening here?" At least 10 voices began speaking at once. Officer Lewis held up his hand. "One at a time, please." He turned to the store manager. "Ma'am, as a neutral party, can you tell me what you observed?" As Patricia began explaining, Maya noticed something unexpected happening. People she'd never met before were stepping forward, eager to share what they'd witnessed, pointing to their phones with recorded evidence. The windbreaker man stayed close to her car, as if still providing protection. The young woman who had checked on her gave Maya a reassuring nod. In the midst of this terrible incident, Maya was suddenly surrounded by strangers united in support of truth and justice. It was a powerful reminder that for every person like Robert and Karen in the world, there were many more willing to stand up against hatred. Officer Lewis listened carefully as Patricia, the store manager, explained what she had witnessed. His partner, a younger officer with a notepad, wrote down details as witnesses chimed in with their accounts. The crowd had grown to nearly 30 people, many still recording with their phones. "So this all started over a parking space?" Officer Lewis asked, looking from Robert and Karen to Maya, who had finally stepped out of her car but stayed close to the door. "That's what they want you to think," Robert said quickly, his tone completely transformed. Gone was the rage, replaced by a smooth, professional voice. "But really, this woman—" "Sir," Officer Lewis interrupted firmly. I'll get your statement in a moment. Please wait by your vehicle with my partner. He nodded to the second officer, who gestured for Robert and Karen to step aside. Robert opened his mouth to protest, but Karen grabbed his arm with surprising strength. Do what he says, she hissed, pulling him toward their car where the second officer waited. Officer Lewis turned to Maya. Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need medical attention? Maya shook her head, though her hands were still trembling slightly. I'm okay, just shaken up. She held up her phone. I have video of most of it. That will be helpful, Officer Lewis said kindly. He pulled out a small notebook. Can I get your full name and contact information? As Maya provided her details, she noticed the man in the blue windbreaker speaking with another officer who had just arrived in a third police car. He pointed to the dent on Maya's hood, then gestured to the crowd, identifying other witnesses. The young woman who had checked on Maya earlier approached Officer Lewis. I have video too, she said. It shows when they first drove up and started harassing her. My husband and I were loading our groceries right over there. She pointed to a nearby car. Thank you, Officer Lewis said, taking down her information as well. We'll need statements from everyone who witnessed the incident. Patricia stepped forward again. Officer, we have security footage as well. I've already asked our tech person to pull it for you. Maya watched as Robert and Karen spoke with the second officer. Karen was doing most of the talking now, her hands moving animatively while Robert stood with his arms crossed, his earlier bravado completely deflated. Every few seconds, he glanced nervously at the growing number of police cars and the crowd of witnesses. One of the teenage boys who had been watching approached Maya. Hey, I put the video I took on Twitter. It's already getting shared like crazy. Is that okay? He looked both excited and concerned. I didn't use your name or anything. Before Maya could respond, a woman in scrubs stepped out from the crowd. I'm a nurse. Let me check you out, honey. Sometimes in stressful situations, we don't realize we're hurt. Her gentle hands checked Maya's pulse and looked into her eyes. Your heart's racing. Why don't you sit down for a minute? Officer Lewis nodded. That's a good idea. We've got plenty of witnesses here. Take your time. Maya leaned against her car, suddenly aware of how exhausted she felt. The adrenaline that had kept her alert and focused was starting to fade, leaving her drained. She watched as more officers spoke with witnesses, collecting statements and contact information. Across the parking lot, she could see Robert gesturing angrily again, his voice rising as he spoke to the officer. Karen had her face in her hands, her shoulders slumped in defeat. They're going to be arrested, aren't they? Maya asked Officer Lewis, who had stayed nearby. He nodded solemnly. Based on what I'm seeing and hearing, yes. Making threats, damaging your vehicle, and the racial elements take this beyond a simple dispute. We take hate crimes very seriously. The words hate crimes hung in the air. Maya hadn't wanted to label it that way, even in her own mind, but hearing an officer say it validated what she had experienced. This wasn't just a bad day or a misunderstanding. It was something uglier, something that happened to people like her too often. A woman about Maya's age approached with a bottle of water. You look like you could use this, she said kindly, offering it to Maya. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It's disgusting. Maya accepted the water gratefully. Thank you. My grandmother always said that when you see the worst in people, look around and you'll find the best too, the woman said with a gentle smile. Looks like she was right. Maya looked around at the crowd of strangers who had stepped up to help her, recording evidence, giving statements, offering comfort. For every hateful word Robert had spewed, there were dozens of acts of kindness surrounding her now. Officer Lewis's radio crackled. He listened for a moment, then turned to Maya. They're ready for your statement now, if you feel up to it. Then we can get you out of here. Maya nodded, straightening her shoulders. She had a brother's birthday to get to after all. And now she had quite a story to tell when she got there. Maya sat in the back of Officer Lewis' police car with the door open, her feet still on the pavement. The air conditioning was a welcome relief from the afternoon heat and the stress that had made her feel feverish. She recounted everything that had happened, starting from when she first noticed the silver SUV waiting patiently for her parking spot. And that's when the black sedan came around the corner, she explained, her voice steadier now. They almost hit me as I was backing out. Officer Lewis nodded, recording her statement on a small device while also taking notes. "You're doing great," he encouraged when she paused to collect her thoughts. "Take your time." From her seat, Maya could see Robert and Karen standing near their car, now flanked by two officers. Robert's body language had changed completely. His shoulders were slumped, and he kept running his hand through his thinning hair, a nervous gesture that made him look smaller somehow. Karen stood ramrod straight, her eyes red-rimmed, but her expression defiant. "They're claiming you provoked them," Officer Lewis said, following her gaze. "But we already have multiple witness statements and videos that contradict that. The security footage from the store cameras should settle it completely." As if on cue, Patricia emerged from the supermarket entrance with a young man in a tech support shirt carrying a laptop. They walked directly to one of the officers, who nodded and began looking at the screen. "Will I need to go to the station?" Maya asked, suddenly worried about her brother's birthday dinner. She'd promised to be there, and after everything that had happened, she needed the comfort of family more than ever. "Not today," Officer Lewis assured her. "We have your statement and contact information. We'll be in touch if we need anything else." He closed his notepad. "We'll need to document the damage to your vehicle, and then you'll be free to go." While another officer photographed the dent in Maya's hood and took measurements, Maya noticed a commotion near Robert and Karen's car. Robert's voice had risen again, becoming more agitated as he argued with the officers. Karen had stepped back, her hand over her mouth. "What's happening?" Maya asked, though she could guess. Officer Lewis sighed. "They're being placed under arrest. Disorderly conduct and property damage to start, but there will likely be more charges after the prosecutor reviews all the evidence." Sure enough, one of the officers was now reading Robert his rights while another took his arms and guided them behind his back for handcuffing. Robert's face had turned red again, but this time with what looked like panic rather than rage. "This is ridiculous," he shouted, looking around wildly as if expecting someone to intervene on his behalf. "Do you know who I am? I'm a regional director at Hartford Insurance. You can't do this." Karen was more subdued as she was handcuffed, though Maya could see her mouth moving rapidly, apparently trying to explain or negotiate with the female officer who was processing her. A small part of Maya felt a twinge of pity watching their public humiliation. Then she remembered the vile words Robert had hurled at her, the threatening way he had loomed over her car, the fear she had felt. The dent in her hood was just the physical manifestation of the damage they had tried to inflict on her spirit. "What will happen to them now?" she asked. "They'll be booked at the station, and depending on the charges, they might be released on bail until their court date." Officer Lewis watched as Robert and Karen were placed in separate patrol cars. But this isn't going to go away easily for them. Not with all this evidence and these witnesses. The man in the blue windbreaker approached Maya's car, stopping respectfully a few feet away. "Just wanted to check if you need anything before I go. My name's David, by the way." He handed her a business card. "I'm actually an attorney. If you need any help navigating what comes next, give me a call." Maya took the card gratefully. "Thank you, David, for everything." People were beginning to disperse now that the immediate drama was over. The young woman who had brought Maya water waved as she left with her shopping. The teenage boys who had posted videos online were showing each other their phones, apparently tracking the spread of the incident on social media. Officer Lewis closed his notebook. "We're just about done here. Is there someone who can come get you? You've had a shock, and it might be better if you don't drive right away." Maya thought about calling her sister but glanced at her watch. It was already past 4, and her brother's dinner was at 6. "I think I'll be okay to drive," she said. "I don't live far, and I really need to get home to prepare for my brother's birthday." The officer studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but take it slow. And if you start feeling overwhelmed, pull over and call someone." As Maya gathered her things and prepared to leave, she watched the police cars carrying Robert and Karen pull out of the parking lot, lights flashing. She wondered what they were thinking now, if they regretted their actions or just regretted getting caught. That evening, Maya sat surrounded by her family in her brother Thomas's cozy dining room, the warm yellow walls decorated with streamers and balloons for his birthday. She had made it home with just enough time to prepare her famous sweet potato casserole and change into fresh clothes before heading to the celebration. The dent in her car hood would have to wait until Monday to be fixed. So there I was, Maya said, finishing her story as her family listened with wide eyes, watching them get put into separate police cars right there in the supermarket parking lot. Unbelievable. Her sister Nia shook her head, her hand gripping Maya's tightly across the table. Over a parking space. It wasn't really about the parking space, their mother said quietly, her eyes filled with a knowing sadness. She had lived through decades of similar encounters that are perhaps not quite as dramatic. You know that. Thomas put his arm around Maya's shoulders. I'm so sorry that happened to you, especially today of all days. Are you sure you're okay? Maya nodded, taking a sip of her lemonade. Honestly, I'm better than I expected to be. It was horrible in the moment, but seeing how many people stood up for me, that part was actually kind of amazing. Their father, who had been unusually quiet during Maya's story, finally spoke. Times are changing, he said thoughtfully. When I was your age, people would have looked away, pretended not to see. He reached across and patted Maya's hand. I'm glad you had witnesses. I'm glad you had your phone to record it. Just then, Maya's phone buzzed with a notification. Then another, and another. She pulled it from her pocket and frowned at the screen. That's weird. I'm getting all these messages and alerts. Nia grabbed her own phone. Oh my God, Maya, you're trending. She turned her screen to show a social media page where one of the videos from the parking lot had been shared thousands of times. The hashtag #ParkingLotKaren was spreading rapidly. I should have known this would happen, Maya sighed, scrolling through her own notifications. There were messages from friends who had recognized her in the videos, reporters asking for comments, and strangers expressing support. Thomas peered over her shoulder. Wow, look at this one. Someone found out who that guy works for and people are contacting his company. Maya set her phone down, suddenly feeling overwhelmed. I didn't want all this attention. I just wanted to buy groceries and come to your birthday dinner. Well, you're here now, her mother said firmly, standing up. And we're going to enjoy this evening together as a family. Those people took enough of your day already. She disappeared into the kitchen and returned with Thomas's birthday cake, candles already lit. As they sang Happy Birthday and watched Thomas blow out his candles, Maya felt herself truly relaxing for the first time since the incident. Her family's familiar faces and unconditional love helped push away the ugliness of the afternoon. Later, as they enjoyed cake and ice cream, Maya's phone rang with an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her step into the hallway to answer. Hello, Ms. Johnson. This is Trevor Wilson from Channel 8 News. We've seen the videos of the incident today, and we'd like to interview you for our evening broadcast. Maya hesitated. Her first instinct was to say no, to try to put the whole thing behind her. But then she thought about all the people who had stepped up to help her today, the way strangers had become allies in an instant. Actually, she said slowly, I think I would like to talk about what happened. Not just about the couple and their behavior, but about all the people who stood up for me. That's the real story here. When she returned to the dining room, her family looked at her questioningly. That was a local news reporter, she explained. They want to interview me tomorrow about what happened. Are you going to do it? Nia asked. Maya nodded. I think so. Maybe talking about it will help someone else who goes through something similar. She smiled at her brother. But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight is about celebrating you, Thomas. As they continued with the birthday festivities, Maya's phone kept buzzing with notifications, but she left it face down on the table. Social media could wait. The police had her statement. The wheels of justice were turning. Meanwhile, across town, Robert and Karen were facing a very different evening than they had planned, sitting in separate holding cells, waiting to be processed, their phones confiscated, unable to see the storm that was brewing online as their faces and actions spread across the internet. Karma, as they say, had indeed hit hard.